Protections.
Due to suggestive adult themes and dialogue, this podcast is intended for adults. In other words, the truth is ugly, so we get ugly right along with it. Everything we say is out of love for ourselves, our people, and our community. Sincerely, the Green Route Podcast.
All right, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to the Green Route. So we took a little bit of a break last week. It was a lot. It was a lot going on in the world, in life.
A lot to unpack.
a lot to unpack. We just need to sit with ourselves last week. But no, we are back, and we are here with one of my favorite Generation Alpha members. I just found that out today, by the way, that you're not Gen Z. You're part of Generation Alpha.
Well,
he's a baby, y'all. He's a baby.
I don't know what generation I'm a part of, but I know I'm a part of the generation where my mama would whoop me if I cussed her out. And now you got a generation where people can do that and still be okay in their mama's eyes.
I think some of that's cultural too, though. I think regardless, because I'm good and grown, and I still don't cuss in front of my.
I'm gonna wake up next week. Mm-hmm. I was telling my best friend that the other day.
Physical altercation. It's going to be a physical altercation. But see, that's cultural though. I think regardless, I'm grown, right?
Right.
I at one point was paying my mama's bills, and I still would not ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
It's still a thing called respect. You do.
That's it. That's the difference.
I'm like, you got to give respect in order to get my respect.
100%.
I'm going to respect you, but when I see you disrespecting me.
That's fair.
Them two wrongs don't make a right, but at the end of the day, my wrong going to equal right in a minute.
Not that. That's that new math. See, that's that Generation Alpha
complicated math.
That's it. Hey, but y'all, okay, let me introduce two wrongs making a right over here. So this. I'm gonna call him what his mama called him, and then I'm gonna give y'all the name he called himself. But this is Christian Williams. He is.
The name my mama gave me was Christian Paul Williams, but it's
Come on, Paul.
Williams.
Come on, Paul. He goes by Batman. He has an amazing show where he holds adults around him accountable for things that just don't make sense. And so I met Christian, crazy enough, through Pinkston High School, where Dallas Free Press does some work on campus. And so everybody just told me about Batman. I had to meet Batman. You got to meet Batman. You're going to love this kid. And so here comes Batman walking down the hall. And immediately, I could tell that he was about his business and that he was passionate about what he does. And so we just started having conversations about podcasting and media. And then that turned into conversations about journalism and becoming a professional at what he was already doing in high school. So I invited him on the show. Number one, to celebrate his birthday, which is in 2 days. He talking about I'm about to be 71.
I'm about to be the great 71. I need to sit down.
So to celebrate his birthday, but also this is a very special episode because as we're coming up on election season, but also just as the world is going batshit crazy.
Yes, ma'am.
We need to be talking to our young people about what they're experiencing and how they're seeing it through their lens. And so he is already a voice of his generation. And I wanted him to come and be a voice on the podcast. So thanks for coming.
Yes, ma'am. I think something that stuck with me at a young age was if you're passionate about it. Well, I made a podcast episode. It was labeled, if you're passionate about it, be about it. Anything, anywhere, anything that you put your name on has to be important. It can't just be I'm gonna do this later in the day.
Yeah.
I'm like 100%. If you see my name on the door that say Christian Williams, 100%, 9 times out of 10, I'm gonna cuss you out if you leave my office dirty, because that's my name. And if my boss walk in there and she see my office dirty, who get in trouble? Because it ain't you. Yeah. It's me.
Yeah.
And I gotta hold myself accountable, not only because I'm, as you said, Generation Alpha, but I'm Generation part Gen Z, because I live anyway. Yeah. So I'm here on the Green Route Podcast.
Yeah.
I'm going to have fun.
We're going to do that. We're going to do that.
And we're going to get into the topics.
And he's not drinking liquor, for anybody asking. I bought him some strawberry lemonade.
Proof.
Mocktails for the babies. We do mocktails for the babies. So yeah, let's hop into it. So let's just talk what's going on in the world first of all. And I want to hear it from your perspective. So we talked a little bit when I was on campus a couple weeks ago. I think right after the Hamas attacks, right?
Yes, ma'am.
About what was going on, and I remember a lot of your classmates they had very strong opinions. but didn't know the details of what was going on. And so my call of action for them was like, go read about it first and then come back and talk to me about what your opinions are. So yeah, I mean, you're hearing about this war that has broken out, right? That our country is directly involved in. And I should say directly because our tax dollars, you working, you got a job. So your tax dollars are also now
at work too.
At work in this whole thing.
I tell people all the time, I work 16 hours for y'all benefit, not mine.
That's right.
But it's like we no longer, if like I seen it on, I think I may have seen it on your platform, or I may have seen it on somebody. When money's involved, we have no say-so about it. Because it's crazy. Nobody hears us when we say we don't want this to happen or we don't want this to happen. We got to go in the streets. The actor strike, that's crazy too. You got actors who actually put their heart and tears into acting, and then you got people like Israel who actually want to have a impactful community, but you got people who want to, hey, I'm gonna keep it real with you. Half of the time, I'm like, well, I grew up in this community, so let's make a change. I mean, like I tell people all the time, I want to demand my change. I don't want to sit here and be amongst no change. Because Lizzo said it like this: if you don't like, Issa Rae, both of them.
Lizzo?
Issa Rae, Lizzo, both of them. I'm gonna tell you how.
Now,
Issa,
I believe that she said something quotable.
She said it like this: if you don't like something, change it. Now, if you don't like the way it is, I'm gonna need you to get up, make your change.
Yeah,
it's easy. Me, it wasn't. Well, I'm gonna say it. It was easy and it was hard for me because growing up in podcasts, you got a lot of people. My grandma was one of the first ones to tell people, "Oh, that's my baby right there. I'm gonna need y'all to be on his podcast." I was like, "Granny, that's not how podcasts work, but I understand you try to support me." I was like, "Granny, I need them to tell me what they work in." She was like, "He work in accounting." I was like, "Oh yeah, let's do it." I mean, because once you tell me what you work in, I'm 100%, 9 times out of 10, be like, my viewers need to listen to this.
Yeah.
Because my peers, I 100% respect them. But when you put weed over, when you put...
you said weed?
I'm going to keep it real with you.
Wait, where are we going with this? We can't be talking about drugs and you underage.
I'm going to keep it PG, I promise y'all. When you... So, you know the Smell Good can, right? My peers... Listen up. So when you put Smell Good and you put weed together, please don't mix them. I'm gonna have a stomach ache. But anyway.
Okay.
Back to you.
So because I have no idea where that just went.
Yeah,
we are not about to be talking about drugs with the child. You're gonna get me in all kind of trouble. But no, I like the fact that you said you have to be the change. And so I see people out in the streets demanding change, right? Demanding a ceasefire, demanding for, just this group of people to be respected as human beings and as civilians in the middle of this. So, like you and your peers, like, are y'all sitting around talking about what's going on overseas? Or like, you said something to me earlier that they don't really care.
So my peers mostly be like, oh, what's going, like, we'll talk about it for probably like 15 minutes straight. And I'm like, so what's the conclusion here? Are we going to make a podcast episode on it? People may not know it about me, but if I don't like something, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to get up and I'm going to do what I got to do to change it. But
that's you. That like how do you encourage your peers to do that, right? Because I'm going to be honest, Generation Alpha seems a little hands off when it comes to like issues around them. Like, even the conversation I was having right in the classroom with y'all, everyone was screaming about what they had heard on TV, but no one had actually taken the time to go read about it or like truly be part of the change that they were saying they wanted. So like, how do you as a leader, right, as a voice in Generation Alpha, get them to care about what's going on and then do something about it?
I think my thing that I do to influence people is to put it all over my social media. You don't like it? Okay, come do something about it. You don't like it? Okay, come help me change it real quick.
Okay, so you're organizing people to
help me change it, because if we are going to be, how they say it, United States of America, we need to be the U.S. then.
Hey, we need to be us. We need to be okay. No, that's good. So okay, So you're organizing, you're putting it on your social media, and I do think that's like a real type of activism for your generation.
That's where Generation Alpha relies
Yeah,
on social
100%.
media.
100%. Yeah. So did you see the clip Barack Obama? I'm sorry, former President Barack Obama. Let me have some respect.
Mr. President.
But he kind of pissed me off. And here's why. So he was talking about, they had brought him on like to do an interview, right, about what's going on in Israel, in Gaza, between Israel, I guess, and Hamas in Gaza. And so what he was pretty much saying was that people are spreading a specific message on social media and that they don't have the complete story, that it's too complex to talk about it on social media. Now, I don't agree with that, because you have to remember that former President Barack Obama was one of the first presidents ever to use social media to mobilize people to get them out to vote for him. So for him to discount the power of social media when it actually helped to put him in the office was crazy to me. But I also think that discounting people's platforms because it is on social media is incredibly dangerous, because you can watch the news and that can be watched so that it shows you exactly what, you know, the conglomerates around mass media want you to believe. Right. But I could go to your platform and be like, no, I'm hearing it from someone who's actually on the ground in Dallas, was at the protest, talked to Palestinians, like, and chances are I'm going to believe you more than I would kind of the big media giant who has a script that they have to read. So you said that y'all reside on social media. Like, how do you harness it to get the message across?
Okay, I'm gonna first address the former president, Mr. President. It's crazy because sitting at a high president standpoint, like, I'm not saying I was U.S. president. I'm saying I am a podcast president. Like, anything podcast you can ask me. Anything social media you can ask me. But anyway, so I kind of understand where he's coming from, because you got people who go on social media. You got people who go on social media and they'll be like, oh, I don't like this and I don't like this and I don't like this. What's the first thing that happened? You don't like what's happening, but you never saw how it started. You never saw how it begun, but yet you want to say that you got people. Well, I'm gonna give you an example. You got people who like, you got the viewers from social media who go to Christian Rock, or you got people who go to Blueface and Christians, and when they get on my phone, I exit off my phone. But anyway, because they drama's real. But you got people who will be in tune more than that, then they'll be in tune to the U.S. What's going on in the U.S. or what's going on in here.
But okay, so you said that people will go on social media and like state their opinion and say they don't like something, but you have people that do the same thing on TV. Like, you literally have commentary shows on television, right, where it's not based or rooted in fact or history. It's just a person screaming into a camera that they don't agree with it. Right. So again, I don't think you can discount the power of social media. I think you do have to be careful about your source. Right. I agree with you. When it comes to social, because you got a lot of people who are definitely more just interested in the drama than they are in what's going on in the US. And then you have people who are like, their lens is colored by, growing up in a racist town where all they've been taught is that me and you aren't worthy of like just regular human rights, right? And so of course their lens is going to be different than ours. So like, source-wise, I think you have to be careful on social, but you also have to be careful even with TV news, even with mass media, because a lot of that stuff is run by big companies with special interests. Like, they have stakeholders, they have board of directors, they have executives who tell them what they can and cannot say on that screen.
Right. And so sometimes I think of it as like, oh, you seeing this, you seeing that, you seeing CNN, but you ain't seeing what's going on over there. Yeah. And I'm like 100%. I'm one of those kids. Okay, I'm gonna admit something to y'all. Don't laugh at me. I'm one of those kids who will trip and fall reading a news article. Because like I tell my peers, reading is fundamental. Okay, if you read a couple paragraphs and you skim through the rest, hey, I fully support you.
Just read a little bit. But just a little bit.
just read on your history just a little bit. As Barack Obama, he was one of my biggest influences when I became like this big president inside my school. I didn't want to. I didn't. My librarian, Miss Moore. Y'all know each other.
She's awesome.
Heavenly awesome.
Yeah.
So talking to her, it was like, well, you don't see these people who sit in their high power. What do you think they came from? I was like, I hear you, but see what had happened was I really don't want to trip and fall I'm using trip and fall as a metaphor, but I don't want to trip and fall like say I trip and fall by hurting myself. If I humble myself enough, it's people at my school who will tell me all day long, Christian, sit down. Christian, sit down. What am I sitting down for?
Yeah.
What are we sitting down for? You got so many rules in this school that we can't even walk across the hall to another class to get the other work that the teacher left with the substitute. Y'all got so... Yeah. So it's crazy that we live in a society where it's just so many things happening.
Yeah.
And we used to have I ain't gonna say perfect government, but we used to have a
Hell no.
government.
No, I ain't gonna agree with you with that one. It was always trash. But as you get older, you gonna come back and be like, I see what you was saying.
Yeah.
I see what
probably
you
will.
Yeah, shout out to Miss Moore. She's amazing. She loves these kids so much and will give her last to make sure that young men like him, with his passion,
Succeed
they get where they're going. So respect to her for sure. All right, let's talk about voting. Cause you turning 17 in a couple days. You're getting to be an old man now. And it's coming up for you. It's like, are you nervous? Like, are you starting to pay attention? What are you even thinking about it?
So the first thing that comes to mind when voting comes around, it's like, when can I do it? Because I want to.
So you are excited?
Whenever I get excited, I get nervous.
Okay.
So it's just like when my body say, oh, Christian, you excited. Let's make you nervous. I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. That's two panic attacks in one, and I can't deal with it. But voting is like that type of thing for me. It's also the same thing. I want to be the change. So where does my vote rely? I mean, where does my tax dollars go? Because y'all taking money out of my check, and I need my check.
And see, is this your first job?
No, I've had probably 4 jobs in the past couple years.
So you know about taxes coming out of your check. So are you now starting to pay more attention to where tax dollars are going now that you have tax money coming out of your check?
A little bit.
Okay.
A little bit.
Yeah. So hear me out. The more money you make, the more you're gonna be like, wait a minute, this is a good little chunk coming out of my check. Where is this money going? And then you're gonna start seeing like, I don't think there are enough books in this school for as much money as y'all taking out of every check of mine.
When I saw, so it's a organization that I volunteer with. Shout out to Young Leaders Strong City. Amber, love you, girl. When they had posted banned books week, I was like, we got banned books? Wait a minute.
Where you been?
I'm like, so we got banned books. Yes. You got people paying their taxes for these books.
Yes.
Then you got so much. It's crazy because I didn't pay attention for a good 6 minutes. And then you can be off your phone for 6 minutes.
Something's gonna happen.
It's a war starting again.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
so the banned book thing is something I definitely want you to look into, because one of the first questions I asked Ms. Moore when I came back on campus this school year was, as a librarian, right? How are you dealing with this?
How are you affected? That's my question.
And she is. You should have that conversation with her. So apparently there were certain titles that was in your library that they had to go and like review, because a teacher came and like brought it up to the administration, like, oh, did y'all know this was in this book? And so, yeah, y'all have had books actually removed from your library at your own school because
personally,
of these banned book lists.
Karen. You Karens, sorry. I'm titling y'all.
No, I mean, but I see what you're saying, because so it's like Moms for Liberty or something, I think, is the group, right, that is behind a lot of these banned books. And yes, you say Karens, I'm going to say it's a bunch of white women who don't really have a whole lot going on during the day. And so they go up to the school and just wreak havoc on them poor teachers and those administrators, because their days are kind of boring, right? Like they are the new housewives of like 2020. So you probably don't know, but if you go watch a show, it's a great show. It's called Mad Men. fantastic. It's about this advertising executives. But his wives, and I say wives, they always stayed at home. And one thing you start realizing, I think it's set in the 40s, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe the 50s.
or the 1940s?
If you don't knock it off. What advertising firm you know about in the 1840s? It was definitely probably 1940s, 1950s. But like in a few episodes, you start noticing that because these women are so bored, like their kids are in school, husbands at work all day, their days are monotonous. Like they're either like ruining people's lives, being like the homeowners association president, or they ended up on antidepressants because literally they were losing their minds from like boredom. So yeah, I feel like these moms for liberty, like they really are the new housewife. Like this is just the project that they've picked up and taken on. Like they're kind of done with the homeowners association thing, like giving you a ticket because your grass isn't cut, an inch off the ground or something like that. But now it's like, hey, let's go mess with the books that the babies are reading, right? Like,
I mean, at the end of the day, I'm like one of those kids. You want us to have an education. You want us to get degrees. We can't get degrees if, this book got feminism in it, so we want to take this out of the school. Oh, this book got sex in it. Oh, excuse me, sorry, y'all. I'm gonna keep PG with y'all. I swear.
We can say sex. It's okay.
But if you, this book got a whole porn picture. Oh, okay. So
but the thing is, they want you to be educated, but in the way that they believe you should be educated. So, right, for me, education is, do you have a diverse way of thinking? Do you ask the right questions?
So what do
can you be empathetic to different types of people? Like, can you learn about other people's culture and be respectful of it? Like, for me, that's all part of education. Yeah, sure, we should know the Pythagorean theorem, but I ain't never used that shit. Have you used it outside of class? I don't think so. All that calculus I took and I ain't used a lick of it. But what I have used are the ideas that were in those books that I read growing up. Like, what I have used is the memory of like, oh yeah, the kite runner is a direct reflection of what was going on in Afghanistan right before the war started. Like, this man wrote about his life right as the war was getting ready to start. And so it gave me a picture of someone who was on the ground, when our country got involved with this war. So that stuff is useful to me. And those are the type of books, sadly, that they are taking out of our schools. And it's doing y'all a disservice.
That to me, it's like, to me, and I speak for, I ain't gonna say I speak for everybody, but I speak for half of my peers. Half of my peers think like me and half of my peers don't. I can't influence you to think like me. I can only tell you some facts about me that'll make you think that I know something about myself.
Well, that's your only responsibility.
Because when I figured out what banned, well, I ain't gonna say I figured out, but I figured out what the banned books were, why were we getting banned books anyway. It was like, we walked into the Dallas library, like right there by my house, it's a library. We walked in there. And they was like, get your banned books here. Why are there banned books? I just want to know. It's a question. Y'all stay at home and y'all bored. But when we need this book to look up here's a random word, what onomatopoeia means. You gonna say that the book has been banned from the state of Texas, or the book has been banned from the US. Why?
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's 100% 9 times out of 10 that people, they take what they want and they use it to their advantage.
That's right. Well, and now that you say in the state of Texas, that just made me realize something. So say you are educated in Texas your whole life. That's all you've known, right? And there have been hundreds of books banned in your school. So you've never read these books. You've never been exposed to these ideas. What you see on TV is washed, everything, right? And then all of a sudden you run into somebody like me who was born and raised in California, and we're not banning books, right? So here I am. I've read a good portion of the books on the ban list. How do you think those two people are going to interact when they finally meet up later in life? What's going to be the difference between them?
Well, first, I kind of read. Some of y'all get that later. So it's like, okay. So you can have a part, like you said, you were born and raised, read half the books on the ban list. You knowledged. You hey, you got many degrees. You
and it's not even about the degree. Say I never went to college, right? I'm just saying, like, my K through 12 education, right, allowed me to read all the books that were banned from your state. Right? So you and I meet 18, 19, right? I had my education back there. You had your education here. We are probably going to be at each other's necks.
Arguing because we have no like we got this one book that we discussing.
The Bible. That's all we got in common.
I don't think this is how this happened. Well, this is how this happened. Well, no, it didn't, because this is another version of the book. But this is not the version that I read. Well, I don't care because I read this version of it. It's gonna be counterclaims and games and
alternative facts everywhere. And I mean, it is a known fact that reading does make you more empathetic, because literally when you pick up and read somebody else's thoughts, like, you have to shift your mind to understand where that person is coming from. That's where introspection comes from. Like, that's where empathy comes from.
I think I had to do that as a first, like, when I first became a president, when I first decided to get into the president business and I became a president. Like, I'm a big president at my school. Everybody know the podcast club, you can't mess with them unless you want to mess with Christian. Christian, he gonna cuss you out.
You are kind of a big deal up there, I gotta admit.
I'm like, 1, 2, 3, I'm finna go off on you. Cause what? Like, my podcast club don't have nothing to do with that. But yet you could say choir does. What choir do?
What does choir do? Y'all choir good or something?
Our band is good.
Oh, okay. Well,
but our choir,
tell me less.
Wait, so we're called the Mighty Marching Band. I don't know why, but yeah. Back to what I was talking about. So, forgot my train of thought. Okay, great. So as
a president.
As a president, sorry, thank you. As a president, I think I had to realize that you got those. I'm gonna be real with you. You got those kids who grew up on 85th and South. Then you got those kids like me who grew up on, you can't cuss in my house. And if you cuss, I'm gonna knock your 2 front teeth out.
Yeah.
And I was like, Mama, but my friends at school are cussing. I don't care. I ain't they bad.
But as a president though, you have to deal with people who didn't grow up like you, who didn't grow up.
And that's kind of hard for me because.
But that's leadership though. Yep. That's just leadership, right? Like, you understand that everybody is different. It don't mean that you're any more right than they are or any better than they are. They just different. So
you just got to take the opportunity to learn them. And I think this year, I'm gonna tell you something I learned. God had told me, he had told me, Christian, I want you to actually get involved in your school. I was like, but God, I don't want to. He was like, oh, crazy. Because last time I checked.
That's crazy.
I was like, last time I checked, I created you in the image of me. I was like, oh, okay. All right. We're gonna do what you say.
You was trying to hit him with get somebody else to do it?
Yeah, I was trying to hit him with the Uno reverse card. I don't want to. But he was like, but you want to be this big change. You got all these dreams. You got all these degrees you want to get. I was like, but God, don't be using me against me. But because it was so much. I was like, God, but I got anxiety. He was like, oh, okay. Then he was like, you got to. I was telling him I got depression. He was like, oh, okay. Ain't nothing that a simple team can handle. I was like, but what if I say I got to take you out this day? Okay, you gonna have a team. When I assigned you the team that you need, I didn't waste no time.
That's what's up.
My team that I got now, that sit at the podcast table, I was like, God, you did something mighty, strong, and powerful. Because when I released my first episode of my school podcast, I had so many phone calls, so many texts telling me, who made this podcast? Who did this? I was crying literally in my room.
How old is the podcast?
Probably about 2 years. The podcast club itself is 2 years.
Okay.
But the podcast club itself is 2 years, but the podcast is like 1 year old.
Okay. Well, first of all, tell the people about the podcast, what the point is, what you do.
So me, as a president, I hold the title of producer, CEO, host, everything. But anyway, so I train my teammates to be producers. Me, Melissa, we know how to produce. We know how to make an episode what it is today. But you got these people who will make a podcast episode. Nothing but them just talking like, 2 + 2 is 4, 6 + 6 is...
Some people are a little boring on the mic. A little boring,
but that's something they can take classes to learn.
I'm about to say, but that's where you come in, though. So the first my first introduction to the podcast obviously was over the summer, right?
Right.
And it wasn't just a school podcast; it was your personal one too that you have that I really enjoy, and I can't wait for you to start recording that again. But one thing that I really liked when I listened to it was that y'all were calling teachers, administrators, the principal, like everybody out. And it wasn't in a way that was disrespectful. It wasn't like, but it was stern enough to be like, hey, we got questions about why and this we need answers. Thing. And so, for me, I looked at you like, yo, this is great. Like he is teaching his peers in his generation how to ask questions now about things. Matter of fact, on my way over here, I saw a TikTok and this girl was talking about how we're trained not to ask questions. We're trained to just accept things the way it is because that's the way it's always been. And it's kind of like, is it? Like, why is it like that? Like, it doesn't make sense. And so what I saw, not only on the school podcast, but with your own, was you questioning like, what is just supposed to be. And I think that's a really powerful position that you're putting your peers in very early on, because hopefully they'll get older and they won't just like take it laying down, right?
I'm going to tell you about that. So when I first started podcasting, it was like, Christian, how you going to do this? You love to talk, but where do we even start? Because you'll get on the mic and be like, my name is Christian. I grew up in the East Waco with my uncle, my mamas, my mama, my uncles, my granny. Hey, they was having a fight every other day, but we live to learn. We learn to live. I would have got on the mic just sounding boring.
Okay.
But when I watched a couple videos, it was like, hey, I'm hyped. I can get hyped.
Yeah.
I can jump 2, 3, 4, but I had to teach my team. There's a time. My mama's first lesson to me was there's a time and a place for everything, and there's a way you do things. Excuse me. The way I taught my team was, let's address them how they addressed us.
The teachers, okay.
Let's call them out, but let's do no names. Let's do no disrespect. Okay. Let's ask these questions. And the first rough draft of Welcome to Pinkston. That's our first episode. Pinkston said that. If you want to go listen, I'm sorry. But anyway.
No, plug it, please. Yeah.
Pinkston said that if you want to go listen. So
available on Spotify and I'm guessing Apple Podcasts.
Anywhere you listen to. The way I like to say it is all podcast streaming platforms. The way I taught them was our first rough draft of questions. For Welcome to Pinkston was like, they were asking me, why is this the second episode, not the first episode? I was like, as I said before, there's a way you do things, and I need to teach y'all how to podcast.
Yeah.
So we did Why Am I in High School? Remind me why I'm in high school again. That episode was impactful.
Because questioning, like, why we here? What we doing here? Like that. Those questions are incredibly important. And not to say that like y'all will ever be able to get out of going to high school, right? That's just what it is for now. But it is important to question it.
The questions that they were morally asking is, so our principal, I'm not going to call his name because anyway, our principal last year was, he made a deal with the students from my knowledge. This is my knowledge, Pinkston. But anyway, from my knowledge, he had a deal with them that if they acted good for the first semester, he'll let them dress out for the second semester. I was like, oh, okay, that's no conduct, but we still got a dress code. I think when I first moved to Pinkston, I was in the dress code. Then I saw everybody else doing it. I was like, oh, okay, let's do that. Because I don't want to get up every morning and put on some khaki pants with this collar shirt. I hate wearing collar shirt. My friend Khalil will tell you, every time I see him in a collar shirt, we got to hang up with the phone. I hang up in his face first thing.
You hate a collar shirt?
I hate a collar shirt.
Really?
That thing make me sweat.
Man, I got 2 collars on. That's crazy.
But I've realized
I like me a collar now.
It's like I've realized that it's a way you do professional things.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, y'all gonna make this seem professional.
But not, and that's an important lesson too, right? Like the point of the podcast is to hold your leaders at that school accountable, but also they are learning to like work hard at something that they say that they care about. And if you care about it, you should work hard at it. Like you should put your best foot forward. So yeah, it's funny. You talked about like, we're not going to call them out. We're not going to be disrespectful. few weeks ago, I was sitting in one of y'all meetings, and I guess you was just kind of getting your team together, you know, like just having a real come to Jesus conversation with them. And one thing, and I don't know what had happened, but one thing I remember you saying was, if you get into it or have it out with a teacher, you need to go back and make that right.
That's just adults, period.
Yeah, yes, but then you were also like, because it reflects bad on us and on me. And I remember thinking like, oh, he's going to be a really good leader because like 100%, like you weren't telling them just take the disrespect. It was go have a conversation, go resolve that.
Go. You want answers. Go make your answers heard.
Right.
I mean, 100%. As I tell people, I'm a student first. Mm-hmm. If I say I'm a president, I'm going to hold myself to that. Mm-hmm. But you got to realize, okay, I'm your president. But like I said before, I'm a student first. So it's not anything that you would tell me that I won't understand. You going through depression? Hey, I sat in my room for 2 weeks crying because my brother died. Mm-hmm. I sat in my room crying because my brother died.
Yeah. I didn't know that. I'm sorry.
It was like people didn't know that about me. Mm-hmm. People don't know that I have anxiety real bad. I get in a test.
Well, we talked about that. Yeah. We talked about it.
I get in a state of, is this answer right? Is this answer right? Mm-hmm. Like every other high school. Mm-hmm. But what my team don't understand is I can understand from a student standpoint. Yeah. But when you're disrespecting adults, I always make it a point that my team need to apologize to adults. If you say something like, "Oh, your shirt is fat anyway," you need to go. Your
shirt is fat.
You need to go apologize to them.
Is that wait?
Now if y'all roasting, I ain't got nothing to do with it.
Your shirt is fat.
So, well, your shirt is heavy, your clothes is baggy. I'ma just throw them at you. You got people who will say your shoes is from Goodwill. That's the generation.
Potentially.
Exactly. That's the generation.
I know y'all not talking. Y'all are the thrifting generation, okay? Like I ain't never seen so many kids thrifting. Like my nieces, they go to it's something called Thrift Con. Have you ever heard of this?
I have not, but I enjoy.
I wish somebody would tell my niece that she got her shoes from Goodwill. She'd be like, and these things fly.
Because look, you see these shoes? My stepdad, he picked them up for me. I cleaned them.
Let me tell you, Ross. Think these are the good people at Walmart. Like, don't look.
don't hate on my swag because you can't get this swag.
Don't let people make you feel bad about where you get your stuff.
I think we gonna go back to what you were talking about. So I think what I was trying to say was, first it reflects on the school, then it reflects on the activities that you have. Then it reflects on me last because I'm supposed to be the president. If you have one organization, if you have two organizations, that's why I always try to see myself. If I get into it with an adult, if I call myself getting into it with you, and I say some harsh things, I'm going to make it a point to apologize. And if I don't, you got the right to cuss me out because 100%, 9 times.
I'm telling his mom, I had to put hands on him, says I'm sorry. I had to whoop him. I didn't want to.
But like I can't see myself doing that. Like I'm like one of those kids who like,
you're very respectful.
I'm like, okay, I'm gonna walk away from that conversation. If I don't like it, I'm walking away.
But again, I think why you are so special in what you do is that you are able to have like these difficult conversations and ask difficult questions, but not do it. And I think that's your superpower, like to be so young, because there aren't a lot of people who know how to phrase what you ask and what you say in a way that like, I feel like most kids, they be like, damn, that kid disrespectful. but when you say it, when you do it, it doesn't come off that way.
Because I'm going to say it like this. We had a college fair in my school. Mm-hmm. Like I told my administrator, why kids didn't know about this? Mm-hmm. And I was like, not to be disrespectful and anything. She was like, I didn't feel that disrespect. I was like, but I thought she did because I was like, the way you just looked at me, she was like, oh, baby, that wasn't nothing. Mm-hmm. I was like, but I just want to ask the simple question. Why didn't we know about this college fair? You got many kids who want to go to college. You got many kids who want to know about college, but they're afraid that college might cost too much. They're afraid that college might bury them. Mm-hmm. You just got kids who don't want to go to college. Mm-hmm. And you got to have them advisors there to help them realize that college might be for them. I ain't gonna lie to you. College ain't for everybody. But you got them people who college is for. Yeah. I told myself,
and they should have known about it.
And I told her just like that. I said, why we didn't know about it?
That's real.
She was like, oh, I didn't know that we didn't know about it. It was announcements made. Oh, well, you need to make this announcement more clear.
But and so what will happen next time is they'll be like, well, damn, we better make another announcement because Christian said last time that we didn't know about it. So so I really do appreciate everything you are doing at Pinkston. Tell people where to find you, and not just the Pinkston podcast, but also like you got to let them know about your personal show, because you are not going to be at Pinkston forever. And so you want people to be able to follow your work once you pass the baton for the podcast club.
Well, I say it like this. If I pass the baton, I'm passing it to somebody wealthy.
Not if. You're going to pass the baton because you're going to graduate. So we need to know where to find your personal work once you leave Pinkston.
I say it like this. In my email signature, say like this. I'm just not I'm a student leader, not just in my school, but in my community. Okay. You can find me on my social media at the great DR at dr.batman.12. That's Dr. Batman. .12. Yes, I'm Dr. Batman. I'm certified. But
so it's Dr. Batman 12.
Yes, ma'am.
Got it. Okay. On IG?
On Instagram. You can find me on Facebook as Christian Williams, YouTube as The Christian Williams Show. I think, The Christian Williams Show, and then I think that's all I got.
We got to streamline all these social media handles. I like The Christian Williams Show, me personally. I think that might be the plug right there.
Me personally, when I record a video, I get to talking quiet. People like, I can't hear you. Turn your listening ears off. But it was like, okay, I realized I need to talk louder in my videos. I think on Batman's Batcave, when I first started that, I was nervous. Mm-hmm. I didn't know people was gonna take listen to that. I think I got like 58 subscribers one day. I was like, God, you playing
early
right?
on.
I was like, God, you playing right? He was like, nah, Christian, you got a mouth on you. I was like, but my mouth get unholy sometimes. He was like, okay.
So he made the mouth.
You got people who get rated R sometimes. I was like, oh, Jesus, okay.
Listen, I used to practice cussing as a kid. All right, I would reherse it, and I grew up in a very Christian household.
My mama made me mad, and she heard my mouth in my head. Because it was, if she said go wash the dishes, I don't want to wash the dishes right now.
I'm doing something, woman.
I'm over here editing the podcast. My mama first told me, she was like, you can be vocal in them podcasts, but you can't be vocal talking to me. I'm like, I'm scared of you. Because
it's a time and place.
I'm like, I might wake up next week if I tell you what I got to tell you. And she was like,
it's a time and place.
My mom was like, don't never be scared to tell me anything. I mean, at the end of the day, you came out of me.
But also, you just have to watch the way you say it, right? Like, and we talked about that even. Like, you can ask anybody anything. You can pretty much say anything to anybody. It's really the way you frame it. So yeah. Well, shout out to Mom too for raising an incredible young man. I'm so excited. Christian, y'all, is like a celebrity in Dallas. So I was having lunch with my line sister. Okay.
I had her laughing.
Two grown women sitting over lunch, and I was like,
talking about a 16-year-old person.
She was like, "Oh, who's your guest on this show?" Next, I was like, kid Christian Williams. She was like, Batman. I was like, you got to be kidding me, man.
That's how people know me.
I was with Amber. We was at Mocha, and I'm sitting there talking to Amber, and she was giving me the flyers for the summit. So they had the Young Leader Strong City had a teen summit this past weekend.
You had to be there or you were square.
Fantastic.
And I'm holding you to it.
Fantastic. And so I'm talking to the founder of the organization, right? Sitting there talking to her about it. She's like, oh, take these flyers to your schools. When I was like, oh, I know a kid that would be great. You know, I'm definitely going. And she was just like, yeah, I know some kids up there too. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And she was like, yeah, actually, we got one that's really involved, Christian Williams. I was like, oh my God, this kid is everywhere. But it just goes to show that you are doing great work. I'm very proud of you. I cannot wait to see what's next for you. And yeah, just keep being a voice for your generation. Because as someone who always had a voice but was afraid to use it until probably like 10 years ago myself, you realize how important it is. Like, not everyone has the ability to string words together the way that we do.
I can't tell, I'm sorry for cutting you off, but if I can't tell my peers anything else, make your voice heard.
Absolutely.
Make it scream if you got to. I was one of those kids who, if I could tell you, I suffered from anxiety for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, people didn't like me. Middle school, that's where that belief was like, oh, I'm not going to do this and I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this because I don't. It was a whole bunch.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I started talking to God. In middle school, elementary school, my grandma always had me in church. But in middle school, that's where I really started taking heed to God. God was like, Christian, we need you. I was like, what you need me for?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, you don't need me. I'm a short kid. I'm a short kid.
Not I'm short.
But he was like, so you're not gonna listen. I was like, okay, God, let me hear you. Let me hear you. He was like, Christian, you got a voice on you. You got a mouth on you. You got a platform on you. You got friends on you who gonna support you no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
My best friend of 8 years still supports me to this day. And she'll hop in my comments. If somebody called me a big head, I don't even pay attention to the comment. I don't pay attention to the comment. I look up 2 hours later. She done went off on. I'm like, oh, okay.
Go look at some of the Green Route comments when you get a minute. Child, they be in there.
I seen one.
Off.
I was like, oh wow. That one comment, I was like,
they be big mad. They be big. So
we just stating facts on the Green Route.
But that comes with the territory, and that's one thing I will also leave you with is when you do have a platform, when you do decide to use your voice, you open yourself up to that, and you have to know that like that's what it comes with. It don't mean that people are right, but that's just part of the game.
Just what
right?
my jacket say: limitless possibilities.
Let them cook. All right, well, we're gonna get out of here. Happy early birthday to you.
The great 71.
The great 71. He talking about he gonna sit in the house and be an old man on his birthday.
Because I got arthritis in my left knee.
That often. Oh man, well, y'all don't forget to follow Christian, Dr. Batman 1, 2, and the Christian Williams Show
on YouTube.
And of course follow the Green Route at the Green Route Pod on all the platforms.
Because she be doing her thing.
And yeah, we're gonna get out of here so we can.
I'll see you peeps later.
All right. Bye.
Deuces.
And it still wouldn't be enough. And they are lucky that what black people are looking for is equality and not revenge.